Magistrate for the City of Daytona Beach Shores. I apologize for getting started late. I had a little bit of traffic problems with construction vehicles this morning. So,
Don't take it out on us.
no, I'm not. I definitely do not do that. It also means that just about anything can happen. Okay, the way we conduct business here is I will call a case. If you are here for that case, please raise your right hand. If you're seated in the back, I'm going to have you come up and sit in the front row so that you can hear what I have to say and what the city has to say. The city has the burden of proof. They go first. They can call witnesses. They can present testimony and evidence. At the close of the city's case, it is your opportunity to cross-examine them. That is to ask them questions. It is not your turn to tell me your side of the story. After the city is done with its case in chief, then it is your turn. You can present witnesses, you can testify on your own behalf, you can show me pictures or documents, whatever you need to prove your side of the story. At any time you do not understand what your options are, just raise your hand and say, what are my options, or I don't know what I'm doing. I can't tell you what to do, but I can give you directions, like you can do this or you can do that. Somewhat like a waiter with a menu. I can tell you what's on the menu. I will not order your breakfast for you, okay? At the conclusion of your case, the city gets a chance to ask you questions, and then I will make a decision. Again, if at any time you do not understand what is going on, and it is your case, if you don't understand what's going on in somebody else's case, well, I'm sorry, but also, I will call cases for people that are here first, and anyone that is not here, we will take up their business afterwards because I don't like to waste people's time. All right, the first order of business is always to approve the minutes of the last meeting. Does anybody show any good reason why the minutes from the last meeting should not be approved? Okay, hearing nothing, we will approve the minutes of the last meeting, and we will go to the first case, which is case 4A. Ms. Herstein, I remember you saying that you took a case off. Was it 4A or 4B?
Case 4A will be pulled from today's agenda.
Okay. All right, so case CDEF 2022-02 is hereby pulled from the agenda, and we will go to case 4B, which is the property owner OC 3711 LLC, case number SCDEF 2023-50. Is there a representative from that case? Okay. Then we will skip that and go back to it because, like I said, I believe in taking the cases of people that are here first. Okay. Now, I notice the next two cases, I am probably not going to do a very good job with the names. I apologize in advance. The next case is Chahaya K. Nathu, trustee, and Karen D. Nathu as co-trustees of the Chahaya K. Nathu Revocable Living Trust dated September 10th, 2007, also known as case SCDEF 2023-42. Is there a representative here for that case?
There is, Your Honor.
There is. And sir, what is your name?
Christopher Bump.
Christopher Bump?
I believe.
Yes.
I should have said, rather than a representative, there is an individual who was given authorization to answer for September's meeting, which was...
Right, I saw that in your notes.
But unfortunately, we don't have an updated one, so I will be calling Mr. Bump as a witness and asking a couple of questions to put some information on the record and hopefully get any questions that you have answered.
Well, I don't think those authorizations actually expire, do they?
It does say a date certain of,
Okay.
and it was unfortunately for the last.
All right.
So
Well, that's very
something
fair of
that
you.
can be looked at.
Okay. All right, please proceed. Ms. Herstein, if you wouldn't mind raising your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay.
Thank you. I'd first like to ask that each of the documents included in this PowerPoint file, whether presented during the hearing or not, by the city for this case, be accepted as evidence, most of which have been provided to the special magistrate. all of which most of which also have been provided at some point or another to the respondent through notifications. The individual who is here, who will be called by the city, has also been granted the ability to look over the documents, but he is not, again, here to represent.
Right, so he doesn't have the opportunity to object, so they'll be received into evidence.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you. Your Honor, this is an initial hearing for a property which lost a significant amount of sand and anchoring vegetation after the 2002 hurricanes. While an emergency temporary work permit was obtained in March of 2023 to place temporary vinyl panels, the ones that you can see in that lower right picture.
Okay.
And again, this is a vacant lot too. To place temporary vinyl panels. The panels were placed and they backfilled with sand. The temporary FDEP work that was authorized has a statutory life of 60 days. It's meant to be replaced with a permanent fix, or the temporary work be removed if permanent fixes weren't needed, but in this case they absolutely were. No changes took place in 8 months. Instead of that 60 days, 8 months passed. So a notice of violation was sent and good service was achieved. After 10 additional months, no changes had occurred, so a statement of violation, request for hearing, and notice of hearing were sent for the September meeting, which, as you know, was canceled due to Hurricane Helene. We then resent and posted those notices for today's meeting, and good service was achieved. I did learn this morning from Mr. Bump, the contractor that the property owner is using. I did learn what is planned for the property at this time, and with that knowledge and the confidence that they will be moving forward, I would like to request an order number 7, slightly different from the one that I have in the packet by date. Slightly different, but I would like to put the 3 violations into the record first.
Okay, could you put up the next, that's the one I wanted to see. The white fence on the right-hand side of the picture, is that the property line the way it should be if it were to be extended across?
That's a seawall, which some of these seawalls that were up here, older seawalls, we actually didn't know were there because they were covered by sand, and I believe this is one of them. We didn't, well, based on the way that the stair, I can't tell. Some of these seawalls
It was 2 foot.
were,
Sorry.
some of these seawalls were covered to the point that we didn't even know they were there because there was sand even further out than that seawall.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was at least as far as that wall.
Okay, so they've lost all of that to erosion?
Well, erosion, storm surge, you know, the combination of that during Hurricanes Ian and Nicole.
Okay, and that, it looks like brick house that would be to the north. That erosion that's in that property is the result of what's happening to the vacant lot?
It was allowed to happen. It depends. It all would have depended on what had been there previously for the vacant lot, right? If they'd had an abutting seawall that held, then maybe that wouldn't have happened. But yes, their wall held, the water got around to the north and an excavated part of that property's wall, yes.
Okay, and you're requesting a 7 with what time
I'll
period?
give that to you. I just would like to go through the violations
Sure.
Quickly. The green star shows the vacant lot that we're speaking about right now. This is a picture taken the following day from the beach, showing you gives you a slightly different perspective of.
How tall is that?
I did not measure, but I would.
is it
have to
taller
guess
than you?
maybe- Yes, absolutely taller.
Okay,
14 feet.
14 feet. Thank you.
Okay, this is a screenshot of the permits that have been obtained through the City of Daytona Beach Shores for this property as of the 16th, yesterday around noon. Basically showing that none of the, no seawall or fill work has been permitted through the city to date. These all happened to come in early 2022 and then late 2022. They were planning on building looks like a single-family residence on the property, and that first set of permits expired. Then a couple of them were submitted again and expired. So I'm not sure what's going on. That really doesn't have anything to do with today, but there are no permits that pulled through the City of Daytona Beach Shores for anything done on that property.
Okay.
The 3 violations that they were cited for: violation A, sand on the east side of the property, which eroded away in late 2022, was replaced without required permits. Land on the east side of the property was eroded away in late 2022 and has not been restored under permits. It was restored under the temporary permit, but that is not a lasting and permanent permit. And just because you backfill with sand doesn't mean that that's going to be acceptable in the long term to FDEP.
What happened to the vinyl?
I'll show you those pictures in just a second.
Okay.
The vinyl that has been placed now.
Yeah.
This is still just a picture at the bottom showing the way it was shortly after this
Okay.
one. Unprotected property erosion is potentially injurious to adjacent properties, as you pointed out. This was a picture taken in May of 2023. You can see that they have installed that temporary vinyl, those panels, and they have backfilled with loose sand. There's a picture taken in August of last year showing the same thing. Some of it has settled somewhat. And this is the most recent picture taken. That was August 31st of this year, showing that the sand is still in place. There's some vegetation that's helping to anchor it, but it is still only protected by those temporary panels, which are not allowed to persist in that way. There has been conversation about adding a cap to make it a permanent fix, and that's really going to be a factor of FDEP and whether that's going to, the placement of it and the materials, et cetera, are going to meet with their approval. So that engineering still needs to be provided to FDEP in order to do that. I would like to, before we get into the order, I would like to first call Code Enforcement Officer Lori McLaughlin to the stand. All right. Thank you, Lori. That'll be your microphone.
Morning, Ms. McLaughlin. How are you?
Good morning, thanks, doing well.
Please raise your right hand. You solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Lori, please, if you would state your name, your position with the city, and how long you've been with the city.
My name is Lori McLaughlin. I've been with the city for about 2.5 months, and my position is Code Enforcement Officer.
Thank you, Lori. If you would, are the documents which have been introduced to the record today true and accurate to those you created? And I'm only speaking of any that you specifically created. Yes. Okay. And do the events as they've been presented to the city that you were aware of represent a true and accurate account of your understanding of the facts of the case?
Yes, they do.
Okay. And is there any information you'd like to add or clarify that would assist the special magistrate in making his determinations?
Not at this time.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
I would also like to, as stated before, like to call Mr. Christopher Bump, who is a contractor that has been and will be working with the property owner, and ask him a couple of questions, basically, hopefully, to get your questions answered.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Morning, Mr. Bump.
Good morning. No, I just want to thank the city for they've been really wonderful.
They usually are.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Could you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay.
Mr.
You
Bump,
proceed.
would you mind telling everyone what is planned for this property regarding the seawall?
Well, what we want to do is we're going to represent our plans to the DPA, DPR, and to the city for a permanent wall on the property. And whether, I just spoke to an engineer here, and maybe it'll be a coquina stone instead of putting a cap on the temporary wall, or what we had originally presented to the department was the wall that we have in place, and they were gonna roll it over to become a permanent wall where we could put the cap on it. But that hasn't been approved yet, and, you know, but, so one of the two things will be done, but we were graciously given to a deadline to make such repairs to the wall or install the proper wall, and we'll make sure that that happens.
And how long do you think that'll take?
Oh, I mean, for the work itself, it's just a couple weeks worth of work. But it's the permitting that is the issue. And now, you know, with the storm that just happened, and, you know, it's gonna be a real draw on their people, you know, I don't know, but I mean, the June 2nd or that I was told about of next year, I mean, that seems more than appropriate.
Do you think you can get it done by June 2nd of next year?
That's what I said, I believe. So, I mean, the only, if I could have any leniency would be, you know, if I could say 90 days from issuing of the permit. But I mean, then again, you know, that falls on me if I don't turn the paperwork in on time and everything like that. So I understand them not wanting to do that, but the only issue I could foresee is the state taking a long time to get the permit. But
Right.
It does seem like a realistic.
Well, this is how we operate here. I give you a deadline,
Right?
and if you don't make the deadline, then I have to fine you a certain amount every single day.
Okay.
Now, I'm fairly lenient when it comes to things that are not your fault.
Right.
Like, for instance, if you submit a permit application on the 1st of the month and the state grants you one on the 15th of the month, I generally don't back charge you those 15 days.
I understand.
But if you submit one on the 15th and you were supposed to have done it on the 1st, I do charge you those 15 days.
I will.
So it's much easier for me to give you more time on the front than it is trying to figure out what days I can deduct legally on the back end.
Like I
Do you
said,
think you can have this done by,
the work itself, I can do, and it's the permitting, and I don't think it, 3 months, let's say, worst case scenario for the permit, so what this is, let's say November, December, January, February, yeah.
June
Should be
2nd?
good.
And the availability of dirt in this climate is not a hindrance?
No, I mean, we have 90% of the fill that we need is there, you know, so, I mean, everything is good.
Okay. Ms. Herstein, do you have a number of days? Because I've never given, it's very rare I give it by a date.
Generally, the city requests a date specific, and so we will, initially, we discussed the June 2nd date for final compliance, including receiving that final engineer's report to the city. So not just,
Okay.
it looks done, but
Oh, no.
it is
Past
on paper
inspection.
done. Yes,
Yeah, I
exactly. And that means a final engineer's report. We are prepared to extend that, knowing that they have not begun the FDEP process again, knowing that they may be switching to a rock revetment. The city's prepared to request a generous date of August 5th for final compliance, but that is
No.
to be done.
Oh, it will be, and signed and passed inspection, yes.
And so,
Yeah.
do you feel that that's fair?
Oh, yeah, definitely, more than, yeah, that's great.
And what about turtle season? Is this going to be a problem that we're going to have to stop work during
We'll
turtle?
still be in permitting during turtle season.
I hope not, Your Honor, and I hope that they will continue to extend the grace of continuing final improvements on those seawalls one more time.
Okay. All right. Mr. Bump, I appreciate it. Thank you very much for coming in. You've made things a lot clearer for me. I'm going to issue in order number 7, order that administrative fees and costs of $162.89 be paid within 30 days. Is there any reason why the property owner couldn't pay that amount?
I'll pay it now if I have to.
Okay. And $200 per day after August 5th will accrue if it's not brought into compliance.
Yes, sir.
Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Now, you're more than welcome to stay, or you can leave. We don't
I
get a...
think I'd like to hear the one, because it's the next door neighbor, see what happens.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Ms. Rustine, are you ready for the next case?
I am, Your Honor.
All right, another easy one to pronounce. I believe it's Jai P. Agrawal and Vidali K. Agrawal, case SCDEF 2023-43. Is there a representative here? And sir, who are you?
Mehul Patel.
Okay. Would you mind coming up front?
Yes.
We do have an authorization to answer questions for this gentleman.
Okay,
Signed by
great.
the property owner.
All right, Ms. Herstein, please proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd like to ask first that each of the documents included in this PowerPoint file, whether presented during the hearing or not by the city for this case, be accepted as evidence, most of which have been provided to the special magistrate, all of which have been provided to the appointed respondent, the respondent's appointed speaker for today.
Okay. Sir, did you get a copy of the packet from the city?
I did.
Do you have a legal objection as to why it should not be received into evidence?
I do not.
And it'll be received into evidence.
Thank you, Your Honor. This is an initial hearing, again, for a property which lost a significant amount of sand and anchoring vegetation after the 2022 hurricanes, or during, I should say, and some after. While an emergency temporary work permit was obtained in March 2023, just as the property we just heard, they were submitted on the same day for the same type of fix, which is that temporary vinyl panels and backfilling with sand. The backfilling with sand was not specifically called out in the permit that I saw, but the temporary vinyl panels were. That work, again, has a statutory life of 60 days, meaning it's meant, once completed, it's meant to be replaced with permanent fix or just be fully removed, as is appropriate. No changes took place in 8 months. Again, so a notice of violation was sent and good service was achieved for that. After 10 additional months, no changes had occurred, so a statement of violation and notice of hearing were sent for the September meeting, which was canceled due to Hurricane Helene. These notices were resent for today's hearing and good service was achieved. While an FDEP permit was submitted April 19th of this year for permanent coastal armoring, was how it was described. It was and has remained incomplete. This was stated again yesterday by Jim Martinello. He's a senior program analyst with the Office of Resilience and Coastal Protection with FDEP. He used the words vastly incomplete, meaning they've submitted, but they haven't made significant progress. The owner has secured a business relationship to move forward with Mr. Patel, and again, we have a different Mr. Patel here with us from DMC for a permanent solution, a new armoring of some sort. Mr. Patel said that they'd need until the end of April to achieve final inspections on this work. We'd like to propose an order number 7 to be fully compliant, and with a slightly different date than we originally proposed in the recommendation that you've received, but I would like to quickly go through the violations again.
Before you do that, could you go back one slide? I noticed in the previous case there's a set of stairs there. And there is in this case. In the lower right-hand photograph?
Oh, yes.
Where did those come from and what did they have to do with this?
That's a great question. I can't answer that.
Okay, because...
One of these properties, and I do believe it is this one, has in fact permitted, and I think when we get to the permitting screenshot, we'll see that they have permitted those temporary stairs.
Okay, because in the washout photograph, which is in the next one, there are no stairs present.
That was
And-
right after the storms, Your Honor.
Okay,
And then they did get a permit. They have since, that picture, that was what, 6 to 7 months later, they did install some stairs, and they do have a permit, I believe, for that.
Okay,
And
they just
often-
don't seem to go anywhere.
Indeed. Or I took a very strange picture.
Okay, sorry.
So again, similar to the picture that you saw before, this one's a little bit more with this home where the green star is, a little bit more centered over the property that we're speaking of right now. You can see how far, based on the property to the left of it, to the south, how far out their land went, at least that far, and how much was eroded from this property. And again, there's a picture taken from the beach. Yes, definitely over my head. And you can see that they lost a significant portion of their patio, their deck. Actually, it appears that may have even been lost. This picture was taken on the 11th of November, and this on the 12th of November. It appears that some of that may have actually been lost in between that time frame. The 3 violations, similar to a previous case that we deterred, but sand on the east side of the property, which eroded away in late 2022, was replaced without required permits. Land on the east side of the property was eroded away in late 2022 and has not been restored under permits, and that means permanently restored. Unprotected property erosion is potentially injurious to adjacent properties, and this is speaking partially about the property just south of it. You can see how that encroached. This is the permitting screenshot that I spoke about. Above the red line is property activity or permitting activity that occurred after 2020. Those 2 permits were obtained. One was to replace rotten wood on the deck, and the top one was for reconstruction of those the dune walkover and beach access stairs.
The April 19th, 2024 incomplete application for new coastal armoring.
Yes,
Is it-
Your Honor. For FDEP. That would not appear on the city's.
Okay,
We do get a report periodically from FDEP. They're gracious enough to let us know how permits stand, because they proceed through different levels of acceptance. They're incomplete when they first are submitted. They have to be reviewed. Sometimes there's a request for additional information. Sometimes they're pending. And then once they're issued, there are 4 level stages in the process, and they do give us a report periodically when we request it to show us who's got any kind of activity going on. Maybe a
Okay.
stalled incomplete permit, as in this case, or maybe one that has progressed further along and would be probably due to be issued soon.
thank
And
you.
that's very helpful, but it would not show up here. Temporary work, you didn't see any of the temporary work because the FDEP issued temporary permits. The city did not need to also go back and permit that temporary work because it was temporary. And if FDEP said that it was acceptable to meet their rules, then the city said, let's get out of their way and let them do that temporary shoring or whatever, what have you, to but then when it comes to permanent improvements, those have to be permitted, and you can see that nothing has been submitted to the city for that.
Okay.
We already went through the violations. I will show you that this was the way the property looked in May of 2023. They had started to add some of the backfill. You can see the vinyl panels in place. Those trap bags, I believe, were installed by Volusia County Coastal Division. Some of the money that they received for our area, they put in vulnerable places to help property owners who hadn't been able to move themselves forward yet. You can see, though, in this case, I found it particularly concerning that the stairs were added, the land has all been grass, you know, it looks nice, but that was all for temporary repair. And so that was a bit of a concern. It was as though they might have been saying, well, I don't want to suppose, but it looks like somebody was planning on leaving it that way for a while, and unfortunately it's a temporary repair. It cannot stay the way it is right now. And there you see your stairs a little bit better, although I still don't know how to answer your question.
Okay.
You can also see an example of a rock revetment, which took place to the property to the left, just the south of this property that we're speaking of, with the large coquina rock, and I believe that the property owner may be speaking of doing something like that. Another view. This was taken in August of this year, so it hasn't changed much from the August of last year picture. That was a year before this picture was taken. And there's another better picture of a rock revetment further along with some vegetation growing through it. We are requesting that you find the property in violation with an order number 7. We are again going to request, considering they still have only an incomplete permit application in with FDEP, they still need to go through all of the approval processes and submit more information. Even though they do have an engineering firm retained, we would like to request, rather than the June 2nd date, that we also give them until August 5th, 2025 to bring the property into compliance, but that includes, again, obtaining approved final inspections on all required City of Daytona Beach Shores permits, which means that they will have needed to have submitted approved final engineering for the project. Okay, I would like to again call.
Well, wait a second. We have somebody on the other side. Mr. Patel, do you have any questions for Ms. Hursty?
I do not at this time.
Okay. All right, you may call your next witness.
Thank you. I'd like to call Laura McLaughlin of the City of Daytona Beach Shores.
Okay, Ms. McLaughlin, you've been previously sworn.
Hello. Hi. Please state your name, your position, how long you've been with the city.
Lori McLaughlin, Code Enforcement Officer, 2.5 months.
Thank you, ma'am. Would you please tell us if the documents which have been introduced to the record today that you created, are they a true and accurate account of those that you created?
Yes, they are.
Thank you. And do the events as they've been presented by the city represent a true and accurate account of your understanding of the facts of this case?
Yes, they do.
Okay, and is there any information you'd like to clarify or add to assist the special magistrate as he makes his determinations?
Not at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have any questions for Ms. McLaughlin? Okay. Ms. Hursty, any other witnesses? Okay. Mr. Patel, would you like to present anything?
Not at this point.
Okay.
I can come up. Sorry.
I'm sorry, what?
I'll come up very quickly. There's nothing that I'd like to do.
Okay. All right. Then I'm going to find the violation. I'm going to give the owner of the property till August 5th, 2025 to rectify it. If it's not rectified, $200 per day thereafter, and order $162.89 in administrative costs paid within 30 days. Is that possible?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, Your Honor, and thank you to city staff for the coordination.
Okay. All right. As I do not see anybody else here, and we have one case remaining, we're going to backtrack to 4B, which is OC 3711 LLC SCDEF 2023-50, and this is a first compliance hearing, second compliance date.
It is, Your Honor. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, yesterday, this is a second compliance date that we're speaking of. The property owner was brought here for the first compliance date, which they did not attain compliance for. Unfortunately, after preparing this case, I got an email or text yesterday at 5:34.
What were you doing in the office at 5:34?
Needs must. I received basically a statement reminding me that the owner would not be at today's hearing because it is a holiday with a capital H. Out of an abundance of caution and out of respect for the property owner, the city is requesting that this be continued to the December 5th date. A first compliance hearing is really about the Massey court decision, Massey v. Port Charlotte, and it really is about making sure that the property owner is aware that the city has deemed them not compliant and that fines are accruing. The work has been done and has been prepared and will have to be altered slightly in order to present at December's meeting. So we would like to ask for a continuance amount of fees, but at this point, it seems the prudent thing to do. And so we would like to request $79.16 in continuation fees. You can see an affidavit for that on page 4B30. That will bring their total, if you accept those and impose them, that would bring their total of unpaid fees to $313.78, fines notwithstanding. Fines have already accrued for this property, but out of an abundance of caution, we would like to request a continuance.
Well, one of the goals here is that no matter what happens, people believe that they've received a fair opportunity. And so I'm going to grant the city's request, order that $85.53 be paid within 30 days. If you do have any communication with the property owner, of all of the things that I like the least, besides open swimming pools, are unpaid administrative fees. And it would shine greatly on them if they would pay the fees before coming to see here. Because I will have a lot of questions about that because it's such a nominal amount compared to everything else we're dealing with.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would like to request that amount be lowered to $79.60.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Only because we have to be careful about what we assess fees for, and we wouldn't want to overstep and assess it for something which hasn't actually happened yet.
I looked at the wrong affidavit. $79.16.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay.
I will pass that along.
Save them $6. All right. Any other business to be brought before us today? Okay. The next meeting, because there is no November meeting because of the Thanksgiving holiday, will be December 5th, and I promise I will be here 15 minutes before 9 o'clock. And again, I apologize to everybody for being late. I do not mean to waste your time.
Thank you, Your Honor.